Hey everyone, and welcome to Beaming Notes. And today we're going to take a look at the summary of the poem Last Ride Together by Robert Browning. Setting of the poem. The setting of the poem is a romantic one where anticipation meets fulfillment. It seems that the poem is set sometimes around evening, as it is quite common for lovers to meet in evening. Usually the lovers meet at the Hyde Park and the setting seems to be the same. As already mentioned, the mood is that of anticipation. The poet is caught at a crucial moment in his life where his fate is already decided in love. He has been rejected by his beloved. Yet he hopes against hope to get one last ride with his beloved. He is waiting in patience with bated breath to claim his request. He is granted that, and then the mood of the poem changes from anticipation to jubilance. As the poem progresses, the speaker confirms his views about life and love. It shows a phony complacency. Further, the mood develops to philosophical rumination as the speaker waxes philosophy of life to a perhaps already bored lady, which in a lighter vein might lead us to believe that indeed was the last ride of the speaker. Summary, stanza 1. I said, then dearest, since 'tis so, since now at length my fate I know, since nothing all my love avails, since all my life seemed meant for fails, since this was written and need must be, my whole heart rises up to bless your name in pride and thankfulness. Take back the hope you gave, I claim, only a memory of the same. And this beside, if you will not blame, your leave for one more last ride with me. The first stanza presents self-consolation. It's based on the underlying theory of blame it all on fate. Of course, the poem talks about love and its attendant failures. The speaker thinks that failure is inevitable as he himself has failed. He is attempting to reduce his pain by trying to curtail his desires. Words are so chosen to convey the feeling of polite resignation and acceptance of defeat. The word since is used 5 times in the same paragraph, which in one hand may indicate to the fact that Browning got involved in an emotional flow and lost control over his poetic polish of words. Moreover, the diction is superficial and of superhuman psychology, because a man who has been ditched can't have too many good things to say about the former flame, unless of course he is ironical about it. Generally, Browning, though a dramatic monologist, is one of the most profound lyricists, which can be determined by the rhyme scheme AABB-CAABBC and the predominant rhythm, that is iambic pentameter. In fact, the whole paragraph is rhetorical. Summary, stanza 2. My mistress bent that brow of hers, those deep dark eyes where pride demurs, when pity would be softening through, fixed me a breathing while or two. With life or death in the balance, right, the blood replenished me again. My last thought was at least not vain. I and my mistress side by side shall be together, breathe and ride. So one day more am I defied. Who knows but the world may end tonight? The second stanza deals with the anticipation of a response by the speaker from the mistress. It is this dilemma and waits for the answer that contributes to the dramatic effect of the poem. The stanza progresses thus from spine-chilling excitement and anticipation to joy to relief and finally to ecstasy. The images of the mistress bending her brow, her deep dark eyes, her breathing and consequent heaving of the bosom, and her blush conveys an almost erotic charm to the poem. In a superb metaphor, with life or death in the balance, the speaker compares yes with life and no with death. Rhythm and rhyme add a lyrical charm to the dramatic poem. The diction provides a picture of the action in the man with the poem, with which Browning was more concerned. It clearly brings out the anxiety and emotional turmoil in the speaker's brain. Words like "bent that brow" refers to the brooding of the lady over the proposal. Fixed and breathing clearly brings out the anxiety of the speaker. The condition of yes and no has been beautifully painted as life and death respectively. The stanza could also be memorable for the line, "Who knows but the world may end tonight?" This line affirms the stupid optimism of the speaker, who becomes as much a butt of ridicule as the people he satirizes for their failures. Summary, stanza 3. Hush if you saw some western cloud, all billowy bosomed, overbowed, by many benedictions, suns and moons and evening stars at once, and so you looking and loving best, conscious grew, your passion drew, cloud, sunset, moonrise, starshine too, down on you near and yet more near, till flesh must fade for heaven was here. Thus leant she and lingered, joy and fear, thus lay she a moment on my breast. The third stanza deals with the beautiful feeling that follows after being with one's beloved, the feeling of being on the top of the world after achieving one's goal. It also deals with the more physical part of love. The tone is of being overwhelmed in love, in which everything is blessed, benediction, and at once. Towards the end, however, the tone becomes sensual in aspect. The sky of the first 4 lines is studded with the stars of imageries. The billowy bosomed benediction not only brings out a crisp alliteration, but also a half personification. The image of a sort of physical, if not sexual love comes to our minds by few lines, and words like "conscious grew, your passion drew," "down on you, near and yet more near," "thus leant she and lingered, joy and fear," "thus lay she a moment on my breast." The mistress has provided him with more than asked for. The words chosen if created, or the words were deliberately chosen to create a calming effect like "hush," "passion drew," "fade," "lingered," which are in tune with the theme and tone of the paragraph, yet the rhythm in itself uncertain, which gives the poem its characteristic dramatic tinge. Summary, stanza 4. Then we began to ride, my soul smoothed itself out, a long cramped scroll, freshening and fluttering in the wind, past hopes already lay behind. What need to strive with the life hoary? Had I said that, had I done this, so might I gain, so might I miss. Might she have loved me just as well? She might have hated, who can tell? Where had I been now if the worst befell? And here we are riding, she and I. The next stanza provides us with a touch of Browning's philosophy, dealing with the present and stop being bothered about the past. The tone of the poem presents a mix of consolatory and philosophical musings. With the fluttering in the wind metaphor, the speaker compares the soul with a long cramped scroll. In itself, it is a fresh metaphor unparalleled in literature. Though the paragraph is simply composed, the line numbers 35 and 36 express the poet's genius of molding ideas into words and thoughts into language. My soul smoothed itself out, a long cramped scroll, freshening and fluttering in the wind. Again, the stanza doesn't give us a proper rhythm, which acts similar to the last stanza. Summary, stanza 5. Fail I alone in words and deeds? Why, all men strive, and who succeeds? We rode, it seemed my spirit flew, saw another region such as new. As the world rushed by on either side, I thought, all labor yet no less, bear up beneath their unsuccess. Look at the end of work, contrast the pretty done, the undone vast, this present of theirs with the hopeful past. I hoped she would love me, here we ride. Next stanza contains little of artistic or dramatic techniques, but more of philosophical elements. The theory of failure is introduced. In order to hide his agony, he deliberately compares himself with those people who had failed in their lives, but not with those who have achieved the zenith. It's a mere acceptance of defeat, and an untrue optimism of better chance in future life or heaven. The word hope used twice, which adds up to the 3 hopes used before. This suggests the disappointment behind the hope, because we speak of a truth only once, but we keep on repeating the lie to make it true. Summary, stanza 6. What hand and brain went ever paired? What heart alike conceived and dared? What act proved all its thought had been? What will but fill the fleshly screen? We ride and I see her bosom heave. There's many a crown for who can reach. 10 lines, a statesman's life in each. The flag stuck on a heap of bones. A soldier's doing. What atones? That scratch his name on the abbey stones. My riding is better, by their leave. Next stanza presents the philosophical idea that the life contemplation in love is far greater than the material world. The words to look for in the stanza are fleshly, screen, bosom heave, many a crown, heap of bones. These words do signify the sensuous markers of the poem. The humor is brought back into the poem by the line, 10 lines, a statesman's life in each. The stanza deals with the continuity of dream into reality. The gulf between imagination and creation is shortened. It also deals with the comparison of the life of a statesman and soldier with the life and achievement of a lover, and puts the lover and his momentary triumph over the achievements of the statesman and soldier. The speaker's tone is self-congratulatory, because nobody else congratulates him for having the last ride with her beloved. The tone is that of the justification of one's failure. The tone is of giving a lame excuse. The first 4 lines are rhetorically interrogational, with the zeugma in line number 56, economizing the poem, hence making it compact, and a synecdoche in the line number 61. The diction is very much pregnant with ideas and suggestions. The words in the beginning of the stanza marches ahead with swords and banners of questions, but suddenly halts for the poet to synchronize the stanza with the other ones, rhythmically, inserts a line that doesn't seem to be in line with the marching tone of the poem. Summary, stanza 7. What does it all mean, poet? Your brains beat into rhythm, you tell. What we felt only, you expressed. You hold things beautiful the best, and pace them in rhymes so, side by side. 'Tis something, nay 'tis much, but then, have you yourself what's best for men? Are you, poor, sick, old, ere your time, nearer one whit your own sublime, than we who never have turned a rhyme? Sing riding a joy, for me I ride. In this stanza, the lover expresses his sense of superiority over the poets who pen down human emotions into words. The lover takes the instance of a poet and believes that a beautiful ride with his beloved is an experience that is above all other men. He poses a question to the poet, asking, what does poetry achieve for them? What does poetry mean? The poet masters in shaping our emotions and ideas rhythmically in the form of poetry. He expresses the thoughts and emotions of people who are unable to express themselves. According to the lover, the poet derives his inspiration from beauty. He acknowledges the poet's efforts and talents, but we observe a hint of condescension in his attitude towards them as he mocks them by asking whether they have achieved the true significance of beauty. He arranges the beautiful descriptions of his thoughts and emotions in the form of rhythmical verse. But what's the point of all these? The poet lives in poverty and sickness. He gets old untimely. He is nowhere close in achieving his ideal of beauty any more than those who have not written a single line of poetry. The lover feels that the poet can only experience joy through his imagination. He can only describe his emotions and thoughts through his creativity. But riding with his beloved, the lover actually experiences the joy. Summary, stanza 8. And you, great sculptor, so you gave a score of years to art, her slave, and that's your Venus, whence we turn to yonder girl that forged the burn. You quiz, and shall I repine? What, man of music, you grown grey, with notes and nothing else to say? Is this your sole praise from a friend? Greatly his opera strains intend. Put in music we know how fashions end. I gave my youth, but we ride in fine. In this stanza, the lover compares himself to a sculptor and a musician. The beloved, through his comparisons, is trying to bring into limelight a major fact of life. That is, no matter what situation a person is in, nobody's efforts receive a deserving and adequate reward. He gives the example of a sculptor who devoted 20 years of his life to art. He became a slave of art, and his passion made him carve a mesmerizing statue of Venus, the Greek goddess of love, beauty, and prosperity. The statue is no doubt extraordinary, but to the common people, a mortal girl with flesh and blood will definitely hold more charm than the sculptor's still statue. Again, he takes the instance of a musician who grows old composing music. The musician gets a handful of compliments from his friends, but fashion changes continuously, which is why his music does not achieve any permanence too. The lover had spent his youth in dreaming and winning the love of his beloved. And now that he's riding in the company of his beloved, he enjoys the thrill and happiness of the occasion. Summary, stanza 9. Who knows what's fit for us? Had fate proposed bliss here should sublimate my being, had I signed the bond. Still one must lead some life beyond, have a bliss to die with, dim descried. This foot once planted on the goal, could I descry such? Try and test. I sink back shuddering from the quest. Earth being so good, would heaven seem best? Now heaven and she are beyond this ride. The last two stanzas wax a kind of metaphysical reasoning and almost borders on obscurity. The lover says that it's difficult for us to know or say what's good for us. He says that even if he had signed a contract with fate, that he would get all the happiness on earth and fulfill all his wishes, he would still hope for some experience of bliss after death, for a person's unfulfilled desires are to be fulfilled in the next world. If the lover had achieved his ultimate goal in life and won the love of his beloved, then you would not have anything to look forward to in heaven. He would have attained supreme bliss on earth. Heaven would have lost its true significance had that been the scenario. But he has not been able to receive the love of his beloved on earth. His failure in this world means his success in the next world. Hence, he can hope to unite with his beloved in the life beyond this world. Summary, stanza 10. And yet, she has not spoke so long. What if heaven be that, fair and strong? At life's best, with our eyes upturned, whither life's flower is first discerned, we, fixed so, ever should so abide? What if we still ride on, we two, with a life forever, old yet new. Changed not in kind but in degree, the instant made eternity. And heaven just proved that I and she ride right together, forever ride. The lover's beloved has been silent throughout as the poet contemplated heaven and earth, but still it is the best moment for the lover when he is riding with his beloved, looking up towards a sky where man imagines heaven. The poet wonders that perhaps it is heaven when he is with his fair and beautiful beloved. He might have achieved heaven in the companionship of his beloved. The poem ends on a note of everlasting hope that the ride will continue forever. Conclusion. Looking at this particular poem, one can make an educated guess at the main reasons for Browning to take up dramatic monologue other than trying to satisfy his urge for dramatic outlet could be these. First, Browning was highly sensitive and shrank from criticism, to which he thought he would be exposed if he uttered his transcendental thoughts directly. Secondly, he felt that truths inculcated directly glance off athwart the mind and so defeat their own purpose. Finally, art succeeds best by oblique or indirect communication, so Browning's dramatic monologue is based on the same principle.